Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this, I think it's episode like 65 or 66, somewhere around there, of the podcast. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode. I know it's a little bit different. Our new schedule is going to be Saturday nights are going to be when the podcast drops from now on. For the foreseeable future until, probably the preseason and such. And so I took the last week off, got myself set. I'm still in school and such, so I had to get everything kind of in order. Had to get all my college papers written, and now we are back. And so there have been a lot of updates, a lot of positive updates for the Eagles, and there has been some discussion around the Eagles as well. Some good, some bad. We will talk about most of it while talking about more of it later. So this episode is probably going to be on the shorter side anyway. But this episode we're going to talk about a lot of the Eagles news that has happened, the Eagles cap space, possible free agent targets as of right now, and some of the top free agents and their landing spots in NFL free agency. But before I blabber on, if I could ask you guys to leave a like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated. You know that all your support, it does not go unnoticed here. Alright? I respond on social media if you send me something. I will respond in the comments if you say something. And so moving forward, I have a couple of ideas for the next coming weeks. Next week is going to be an episode where it covers all the news, especially since the Combine is this upcoming week. I believe it's the 23rd or 24th till probably roughly March 2nd. So there's going to be a lot of news and rumors coming out of the Combine since everybody's going to be together. And so we were going to have more to talk about, hopefully. But on top of that, I will be doing everything that the all AFC teams have to do to improve themselves, which the follow-up would be the following week after that with the NFC. So, if you all are interested in that kind of stuff, leave a like and subscribe down below, and stay up to date on all of my releases this offseason, and all of the best Eagles news that you can get. Alright, so jumping right into it, the first topic I want to talk about has been a rumor even over the last couple of episodes, but I didn't want to touch on it yet until we got a little bit deeper into the off-season than we already were. So Maxx Crosby, for those that don't know in the back, Maxx Crosby is a disgruntled, top-tier defensive edge in Las Vegas with the Raiders. Crosby has been behind Myles Garrett, in my opinion, as the best defensive edge player and possibly defensive player as a whole in the NFL over the past couple of seasons. Crosby signed this massive deal with the Raiders this past offseason, and now he was still disgruntled then, but then he got paid. Now he's saying to the general manager over at Las Vegas and Tom Brady as well that he will not play for the Raiders in this upcoming season. And so he's kind of forcing his way out of Las Vegas. And so the Eagles, obviously, have become one of the top trade candidates for Mad Maxx Crosby. And so we're going to discuss some of that here. So here are some of the best acceptable and unacceptable prices to trade for Maxx Crosby. Now, since Crosby has already aired out his dirty laundry to the rest of the league, it would be safe to assume that the best or the acceptable here would be more likely than anything closer to the unacceptable prices for Crosby. To me, the best price is one first round pick and maybe a second round pick in a future NFL draft. This is really cheap. Now, Crosby is a first round pick regardless. There's going to be at least one first round pick. And to me, it could probably be a conditional second round pick to where if he meets a certain sack goal or certain snap goal with the Eagles, then the Raiders could bump that up to a second round pick. And so, to me, that would be the cheapest that we could possibly get Crosby, and that's probably because we know that he's disgruntled already. And so that makes it easier for us to pivot and then trade for an edge guy instead of going and drafting an edge guy with a first or second overall pick. And this guy would be amazing alongside Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt. And if you put Max Crosby and Jalen Carter on the same defensive line, there's no way that you can plan as an offensive coordinator and as an offensive line coach and as a quarterbacks coach. There's not a way that you can plan for both gentlemen, one coming off the edge and one coming right down the middle at you. And if we re-sign Jordan Davis, him as well, throw him in that. And so Crosby for a first-round pick would be a steal, in my opinion. Like a first and a conditional second round. An acceptable would be a first, 2 seconds, and probably like maybe a lesser known player, a Jalix Hunt. Well, not lesser known, but still an edge rusher. To me, this would be an acceptable price for Max Crosby. We're losing a top guy on our defensive line, in my opinion, but we're bringing in one of the top defensive edge players in the NFL. And we're losing a first-round pick in 2 seconds, which could go to revitalizing and reloading this defense as a whole, not just on the defensive line. And to me, an unacceptable price would be anything with 2 first-round picks and like 2 seconds and maybe like a fourth. And maybe a player in there as well. Any of that mixture there would be totally unacceptable, and especially 2 first-round picks. I would personally not be comfortable with that because the Eagles tend to nail their first-round picks over the past couple of seasons. And these guys are starters or will be starters this upcoming season. And so if we lose that ability to be able to reload on defense or on offense, then ultimately the Eagles are not going to be able to perform at their highest. Now, how realistic is this trade? To me, it's not that realistic. Here's why. Crosby has said this stuff in the past, and obviously we saw the same thing with Myles Garrett. Now, you can get me on that point when we talk about that he already signed a contract last year, and so more money isn't the problem. And I do feel like there are other teams out there that need like another piece or two. The Patriots possibly could use a guy like Max Crosby on the defensive line to pair along Milton Williams. The Bills are losing Joey Bosa, and they need to bring in a defensive guy that can kind of be their Josh Allen. And so there are so many different possibilities that Max Crosby could go to, and he could still go to somewhere else and impact that defense tenfold than what he could possibly do here. I feel like we have a lot of the pieces that we need. We just need to use them right. And our defense was one of the best defenses post-Week 10 that you could have asked. And so I don't think we need a Max Crosby. He would be interesting to see how he would affect the overall defensive line and defensive attitude coming into this next season. But it's going to have to be more of a wait and see, especially once we get closer to the draft, I feel like, is when Crosby would go. The Raiders would feel safe to make a move and possibly trade for a future pick or two and maybe another player. And so Max Crosby is realistic to me, but he's not like the top guy that I think will be joining the Eagles this upcoming offseason. Two guys that are rejoining this Eagles team, though, after rumors of retirement, is offensive tackle Lane Johnson and offensive guard Landon Dickerson. Johnson officially announced that he would return for his 14th season with the Eagles. I already talked about this last week, that he was putting like fitness videos on his Instagram, and that he seemed to be working out to get his body back in shape. And he was working on that leg/foot injury that we knew that he was rehabbing from. And so I really thought that Lane Johnson was most likely coming back for a 14th and last season. And so that will help us shore up that right side of the line. Once again, we're not going to have a question mark at left guard, and right tackle. It will allow us to look back at the right guard position, because we'll talk about the left guard in a second here, and it will allow us to go back and see, can we bring in a new guy that's better than Tyler Steen, or should we bring in just some depth behind all these pieces, which is something that I'm going to get at here in a little bit. And so Lane Johnson back, huge. Most of the time that he's in the lineup, we win, and most of the time that he's not, we lose. But even though he is coming back, we need to emphasize, especially in the draft this season, in the second or third round, that we need to find a successor for Lane after this season. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his last season, especially with some of the injuries that he's had to deal with. And so bringing in a young, talented, and raw talent behind Lane Johnson, allow him to not exactly mentor, but tell him to watch how Lane preps his body, preps his mind, and preps his teammates before he goes onto the field. And so bringing in a guy to sit behind Lane and to add more depth is definitely going to be crucial for the Eagles moving forward. Speaking of, Landon Dickerson is expected to return this season as well by multiple Eagles insiders. Dickerson apparently was frustrated with his health this past season, which is understandable, which played a major factor in why he contemplated retirement this offseason. And to me, the Eagles without Landon Dickerson are such a worse team than if Dickerson is there healthy, or even unhealthy as well. It should be of note that Dickerson's health is one of the biggest unknown X factors for the Eagles' success. Many people don't talk about it, but both seasons that he played almost a full season in the NFL, the Eagles made the Super Bowl. Back in 2022 and 2024, he played almost all 17 games. He played probably like 16 out of the 17, and then he played almost all the postseason games. And so Dickerson's health is going to be a major X factor moving into this next season. If him and Jurgens can stay healthy, that offensive line, that I believe that's the two hole right there, is going to be able to open up pretty wide, and these guys are big boys. And Landon Dickerson knows how to take care of himself. Hopefully, this will give him some time off, allow him to prep his body as he needs, and at least go out for one more hoorah. I think Dickerson will come back after the season, especially if he has a good season, and not really contemplate retirement. And I just think that it's something that every offensive lineman that's been this banged up goes through in their career, is at one point contemplate early retirement to save their body, but realize they have a shot at greatness. And so Landon Dickerson coming back helps shore up that left guard position and helps shore up almost that entire left side of that line. And so I'm happy to have Dickerson back at the left guard position. Lastly, one last offensive lineman I wanted to talk about was center Cam Jurgens. underwent a health reset week in South America. This is essentially where he underwent several non-surgical treatments, like stem cell replacement therapy, to help him get back to his peak health. Now, there have been plenty of athletes that have done this in the past. The big one to me would be Kobe Bryant. Underwent stem cell replacement therapy, and he came back and he looked a lot healthier, he looked a lot smoother, and he looked a lot more fluid in his movement. And he went under like IV fluid replacement and cryotherapy. But I hope this gets Jurgens not only physically back in the right spot, but mentally as well, telling him that, yeah, you've been injured, and maybe he was injured throughout this past season, but if he comes out here, he can ultimately be one of the better centers in the league, and he can help headline one of the best offensive lines in the entire league. And so that's kind of it for the Eagles' offensive line stuff. We definitely need to talk about who is going to be right guard this upcoming season. Tyler Steen had a great season, don't get me wrong, and he was still one of the only healthy guys on this offensive line throughout the entire season alongside Mailata. And so Steen is valuable in the sense that he can stay healthy. Steen is valuable in the sense that he had an amazing season, statistically better than Mekhi Becton, the right guard the year before him. But we're going to have to wait and see whether he's really talented enough to fight off maybe some competition that the Eagles will bring in during the offseason in training camp. Next up, we have the Eagles' salary cap situation. So, if you're not interested in this, just stick with me for a little bit or skip until a little bit later, because we're going to talk some money here. So currently the Eagles have $18 million in cap space coming into this offseason. This ranks them 18th in the NFL in cap room. But there could be a few moves which they could do to open up almost $30 to $40 million in cap space. The first move that they can do is extending Jordan Davis. Now, extending Jordan Davis would take off some money that he would earn that is keeping the cap down, and they can push that to the back of his deal, which will then open up a certain amount of money, of which I don't know. I think it's roughly around $9 million that they can open up if they do this by extending Jordan Davis, which is, I believe, one of their top priorities. I believe extending Jordan Davis, re-signing Dallas Goedert, and re-signing Jaelan Phillips are probably their top three priorities with in-house off-season things that they need to do. Next up, move 2 would be cutting Michael Carter II. Now, Michael Carter, many of you probably wouldn't know the name. I recognize the name because we covered him a little bit when the Eagles traded for him from the Jets, and I thought maybe he could be the guy to go opposite of Quinyon Mitchell, and that didn't quite work out. Cutting Michael Carter will save us, I think, over $10 million in cap space, and so that would ultimately save us a lot of hassle of reworking the cap around him. If we just cut him loose, we can allow him to go find a new team, and we can ultimately just separate the two, which is probably for the best. And move 3 would be re-signing Dallas Goedert. Now, why do I say re-sign Dallas Goedert? You have all these different places say cut Dallas Goedert, or don't sign him, let him walk, draft his replacement. And there is something to it to where if we designate Dallas Goedert to a post-June 1st release, then we do save a certain amount of money. But looking at the cap calculator that I've done, if we re-sign Dallas Goedert, it lessens the $20 million dead cap hit, which takes away $20 million from our free cap space. It lessens that by roughly $3 to $4 million. And by doing that, that still gives us some wiggle room to bring in some backups maybe one or two backups on like $2 million deals over 1 year, or maybe 1 2-year $4 million deal with a backup. And so, re-signing Dallas Goedert, Mannion's system relies heavily on top-tier tight end play. And so, why not bring back a talented guy who just scored the most touchdowns in in his single career in one season, and allow Mannion to bring out the most of Dallas Goedert over 1 year and draft his replacement in the 4th or 5th round? This is a quite deep draft when it comes to the tight end position. So, my personal favorite would be Stowers from Vanderbilt. Eli Stowers is my favorite right now for the Eagles to bring in at tight end in the draft, probably in the third round. I would not hate that move. And then ultimately have him replace Dallas Goedert next year. But just having Grant Calcaterra is not going to cut it from here on out. We have to bring in a backup like Eli Stowers through the draft, and then also re-sign Dallas Goedert to a 1-year deal, and just tell him, look, we're doing this. You'll have one last hurrah, one last shot at a ring, and we'll get you some guaranteed money, but it can't be as much as you're probably hoping for. And we just got to pray, I guess, that works. We're going to have to wait and see, though. Alright, so some possible free agent signings for the Eagles. First one I have is Mekhi Becton. Now, you will recognize that name. We said it earlier today, and we also said that a lot during 2024. Mekhi Becton was the right guard during the Eagles Super Bowl run, and this move, to me, just feels right. Becton had a slow start and really shaky outcome over this past season in LA. He's being cut officially by the Chargers. They rumored that a couple weeks ago. It is official that they're cutting Mekhi Becton. So that will allow him to be an unrestricted free agent, and it will allow him to find who he thinks is a best fit for him, though the only success he's had is with the Eagles, funny enough. And so I could see a situation where Mekhi Becton can come back and can ultimately try to contend for that starting right guard spot again. If Becton doesn't start, though, last season is still proof that the Eagles need more depth and talent at the offensive line position, which is what Becton brings anyway. So, my top guy, honestly, is bring back Mekhi Becton. He would be cheap, bring him back on a 2-year deal, and then allow him to either contend for that starting spot and win, or be a talented backup in case, God forbid, Landon Dickerson goes down again. Shift him over to left guard, and let's see what happens. And so next up, so obviously Mekhi Becton is my favorite, but my second favorite is Denzel Ward. Ward is likely to be cut from the Browns due to the cap, and the Browns being significantly over top of it. They just paid Ward a massive deal with a lot of guaranteed money, which is what put them over the salary cap. And I just think that Ward could be the next Darius Slay in Philly. Denzel Ward is a veteran corner coming from a bad franchise with something to prove after getting kicked out of his last franchise, essentially. And so, to me, he would be the perfect corner to pair alongside Quinyon Mitchell and make a formidable duo, or trio if you want to include Cooper DeJean in that. Denzel Ward has been one of the best corners over the past couple of seasons, but he's silently been doing it. He shuts down top-tier guys like CeeDee Lamb, he shuts down Jamar Chase, and so bringing him to Philly alongside Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean would make that corner room a monster and one of the best in the NFL. Here are two guys that I think, one I definitely think could have a shot after being rumored, and one that does not have a single shot at all. The first one being Cameron Curl. This is a young safety that might be expensive when it comes to the free agent market. But Curl has started to enter into his prime over the last season and a half with the Rams. And Cam Curl has ultimately been one of the top safeties in that time as well in the league. He would be expensive, but he would fill a void that would most likely be left in the wake of losing Reed Blankenship, because I just don't see Blankenship coming back, especially with some of the other priorities that we have and the limited cash we have to do with that. And so Cam Curl, he would be expensive. He's young. He could come in and bring an attitude alongside Andrew Mabuka at safety and would help make this secondary a formidable force once again. Next up, we have a rumored guy, and I'm going to tell you why this is all BS. We have Kyle Pitts. Now, Kyle Pitts has been rumored to the Eagles for over a week now. Kyle Pitts is the Falcons' tight end, and he's going to be a free agent this offseason. And I don't believe the Falcons are going to be franchising tagging him. So, this rumor started, oddly enough, by a New York journalist that has no ties to either the Eagles or the Falcons, and has never proven that in the past either. And so I would personally not listen to anything about Kyle Pitts unless Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport report that something is real about this rumor. And so Kyle Pitts, yes, he's a young, dynamic guy that's not being used correctly in Atlanta, but he could have a bright future somewhere else. I just don't think that it's going to be in Philly at all. And so our last segment today, I'm going to cover some of the top free agents and what their landing spots, where I think they're going to go. The number one free agent, he's older. He's going to be 32. That being Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson going to be a free agent after a long sparring session with the Bengals this past offseason over a contract. He's probably going to look for some guaranteed money here coming up. And one of the spots that he could do that, to me, would be the Colts. Colts have a lot of money to spare. And ultimately, I think a guy like Trey Hendrickson coming in and helping shoring up this defensive line, which is losing a few pieces, could be a smart move for general manager Chris Ballard. And so a guy like Hendrickson to come in and help elevate this defense once again could be a right move. I could also see Hendrickson going to Las Vegas if Las Vegas trades Max Crosby. Max Crosby, again, one of the best guys out there. Trey Hendrickson is not too far behind him at edge. And so they have the most cap space to play around with. And I think most of these guys that I'm talking about could have a solid chance at going to Las Vegas. But to me, Trey Hendrickson, the best spot for him would be the Colts this season. Next up, we have George Pickens. George Pickens, to me, is such an interesting character. And a lot of places have him returning to the Dallas Cowboys. And I do think that they would probably use a franchise tag on George Pickens. But if that situation does not happen, and if he is a free agent, I think there are two spots that he could go. One is New England. I think New England needs a top-tier wide receiver. George Pickens proved how dynamic he could be in the right system, and playing along Drake May, he could be one of the best wide receivers again, and possibly help elevate Drake May back to an MVP level of quarterback play. And so George Pickens, to me personally, I think New England is the best fit for him, and they have a lot of money to give Pickens if he's looking for guaranteed money. Again, I think another good spot would be Las Vegas. Again, most money they can give out. They have the most, and they need to bring in a wide receiver to that place because they do not have one at all. And if they're getting Fernando Mendoza in the draft, they're going to need to bring in a dynamic playmaker and a proven dynamic playmaker to put alongside this rookie quarterback. So George Pickens, if he doesn't get franchise tag, would be an amazing fit in Las Vegas, in my opinion. Jalen Phillips. I think Jalen Phillips will be re-signed by the Eagles, but if he has to go somewhere else, I think Jalen Phillips could possibly go to Tennessee. Why? Tennessee has one of the better defensive schemes coming off with Robert Saleh. Saleh could utilize a guy like Phillips in Tennessee and make him a big threat. So to me, Phillips, if he does not come back to the Eagles, is most likely going to go to the Titans because they can give him a good contract with decent money and utilize him well in their defensive scheme. We have Breece Hall. Now, he's probably going to get franchise tagged by the New York Jets. But Breece Hall, if he does not, I like him to go to a place like Kansas City. Kansas City, we don't know the timeline currently for Mahomes. And so, even when he gets back, they need to take some pressure off of him throwing the ball. So bringing in a dynamic playmaker like Breece Hall makes a lot of sense because he can help open up that play action and make defenses fear what he can do in the backfield. Mahomes would benefit from having a running back like Breece Hall, who's quietly been one of the better running backs in the league. And I could just personally see Breece Hall ending up in a Chiefs jersey and helping generate some offense, especially on the ground, for the Chiefs moving forward. And if not the Chiefs, I feel like he would go back to the Jets. Let's see. There's not a lot of big names. I'm trying to find some Quay Walker. Quay Walker's the linebacker for the Packers. To me, perfect spot is the Commanders. Why? Commanders are getting a bit old when it comes to their defensive positions. Quay Walker, he's not exactly a spring chicken. Where's his age at? He is currently 25 years old. And so he's not like a 23, 24-year-old, but he's still going to be good for at least 3 more years. And so to me, bringing in a guy that can help take over after Bobby Wagner most likely retires after this season would be the best shot for the Washington Commanders. Another spot I could see him going would be the 49ers. Although they are tight on money, I still think like the 49ers need to bring in some help alongside Fred Warner. And bringing in a guy like Quay Walker could ultimately be a scary duo at linebacker. Both these guys have been at the top of their game. Obviously, to me, Fred Warner is the best upright linebacker there is, with only his rival being Zach Bond. But Quay Walker is right up there with those two. And so either the Commanders or the 49ers would be the best fit for Quay Walker. Mike Evans. Mike Evans, I still feel like he's going to return to the Buccaneers on a team-friendly deal. They somehow find a way to do that. They did it with Chris Godwin last year. I think Mike Evans retires as a Buccaneer. So I'm 90% sure that he would return as a Buccaneer. But if he doesn't, the Ravens have quite a history of snagging up old, legendary wide receiver free agents. And so I think Baltimore, outside of Tampa, would be the best fit for Mike Evans to come in there, play with Lamar Jackson in a Ben Johnson style offense and let him see what he's able to do in his last 1 or 2 seasons in the league. Malik Willis, the backup quarterback for the Packers, who looked amazing when he was starting for Jordan Love. I still think that he's probably going to go to either Miami or Arizona. I lean more towards Miami, which is a popular opinion because he has connections there. Obviously, the new head coach is the former defensive coordinator. And I still think that Malik Willis has a shot at becoming a solid quarterback in the league. And under Bobby Slowick, who was able to develop C.J. Stroud pretty well until C.J. Stroud started to regress himself, I still think Malik Willis is going to go to Miami, but if he does not, I think that he is going to be a Cardinal and either back up or start in front of Jacoby Brissett in Arizona. Let's see, Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker obviously just won Super Bowl MVP, and so I don't think he's going to be there anymore. And somebody that has money and somebody that does not have a franchise running back anymore is Arizona. And again, Arizona has a lot of cap space, could pay a top guy like Kenneth Walker, and ultimately with James Conner coming off of an injury, hitting 30, possibly 31, I believe, ultimately I feel like Kenneth Walker, his spot could easily be Arizona in this West Coast style offense, which relies heavily on the running back. But if not, I could easily see him returning to Seattle to help out the Seahawks moving forward. And lastly, I want to cover... Let's see. Who do I want to cover? There's not a lot of big names this year. I already talked about some of these guys. Let's talk about Romeo Doubs. Now, Romeo Doubs is the wide receiver for the Packers. I think that there's a solid chance that if he takes a team-friendly deal, he ends up being wide receiver 3 for the Eagles. I feel like the Eagles need that wide receiver 3, are not going to bring back Jahan Dotson, and so there's a high chance that they're going to be in the market for a wide receiver 3. And Romeo Doubs is a gadget kind of guy that could play anywhere outside, in the slot, whatever Sean Mannion needs, and he's used to that kind of system as well. If he does not go to the Eagles, I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders take a shot at him to bring in a good wide receiver to pair alongside their rookie quarterback. And so I think Doubs is... I'm like 52% sure that he would end up with the Eagles, but 48% sure that he would end up with somebody like the Raiders, just because of how much money they could throw at the kind of guy that Romeo Doubs is. All right, I think that's going to be it for this episode of the podcast. Thank you guys again for everything that you did. We're going to continue on with this schedule. I know this episode's kind of late. I'm going to edit this real quick and get it out to you guys. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Stay warm. And keep your ear out for the NFL Combine this upcoming week and some of the rumors that might start leaking out from there. And I don't really have anything else for you guys. So remember, go Birds.